Well, Alabama seemed to get a lot of good news for a change yesterday.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA's radio network. Luke Robinson, that's me. Bama Online's Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll tell you about FanDuel in a bit. Thank you, everydayers, for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. We appreciate you guys a ton. Well, Jimmy, Alabama got some good news. Jaden Roberts, Keon, Jamarian Latham, they're all going to be back. Now, that's on top of the other guys who've already announced they would be back. Deontay Lawson, Tim Keenan, Jam Miller. Give me another one, Jimmy. I'm leaving somebody out.
Every single player but Jihad, Jalen, and Tyler Booker.
And the ones that got in the transfer portal. Everybody except all those.
And the ones that got in the portal. But we all know who got in the portal. But in terms of predicting who was leaving this team and going to the NFL, shout out to Locked On Bama for being pretty consistent in that it would likely only be Jihad, Jalen, and Tyler Booker. That's sort of our expectation based on conversations with sources and stuff. And it ended up happening that way. And this is an outstanding result for Alabama because the three guys that left should have left based on projections and all other factors. And the guys that stayed, I think, made fantastic business decisions, not just personal decisions, but business decisions. And Alabama's going to be a real beneficiary of that. It definitely leads into what we're going to talk about in the second segment. Because of those decisions, it's going to have a direct effect on what we'll talk about in segment 2 today.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The roster next year keeps looking better. And here's the thing. 4 months ago, if we had been, forecasting what the roster would look like next year, it's probably going to look about the same, but I'm more excited about it now because I guess 4 months ago, I probably wouldn't have been thinking that the transfer portal would be the way it is now and there'd be so much poaching. I knew there was a lot of poaching already, but now it's gotten dang near rampant. So I would have thought there would have been more poaching. Somebody like when Devontae Smith is probably the one dude who was poached. Now, I guess technically there were some others that probably poached to a degree, but I don't think Alabama was like just, oh, no. I don't think they were even like that with Devontae Smith.
Right.
I think that it was a situation where, we would like to have him back, but if you want him that badly, you can have him. It's sort of like when you're playing poker. If somebody overbets the pot, well, you might have a pretty good hand. Like you might have a pair of tens, and the board is showing, 8-9-2, and somebody bets 700 in a 1-2 game. You're like, I can call, but I don't feel super good about that. Is that really value when the pot's only about $50 so far? That doesn't seem like good value for me to call. So you probably fold, and I think that's what Alabama did. I think that's a good way to look at this. It's a poker game.
It's a cost-benefit analysis.
Cost-benefit analysis.
No different than what the like a Major League Baseball team does in terms of ascribing a dollar value to the players on their roster. When it comes to free agent time, they're like, we're not going to overspend. You might be a good player, but you're worth X. So we're not going to spend Y to keep you because you're worth X, in our opinion. And in terms of players on Alabama's own team, they would know that extremely well. So, there are a couple of guys left, but no one that left in terms of the starting lineup, no one left that I think is going to hurt Alabama's starting lineup next fall. I don't think Pritchett's absence is going to ding the Alabama starting lineup. I don't think Devontae Smith's absence will. That's a closer call. But I just have a lot of confidence in Deshaun Jones there, and I thought Deshaun played well against Michigan at the Husky spot. Plus, you got Ivan Taylor coming in, who I think could be one of those freshmen that play quickly. And Red Morgan last year he'll make a big leap from year 1 to year 2. That's typical with true freshmen. So I feel pretty good about that Husky spot. To be honest, even go through all those portal losses, I think off the top of my head, Luke, there were 23 guys that left in the portal. That's a pretty good number. Looks like the SEC average is going to be 18.
Yeah.
So we actually went 5 over the average, which is a little surprising to me because I thought it would be right at the average, but 23, 18. But
I get it because we have a more talented roster.
yeah,
Like Auburn's not going to – I don't know exactly how many Auburn lost, but I was talking to an Auburn friend last night. I do a show on Tuesdays with usually an Auburn guy. And we were talking about the portal, and I said, I think what Auburn – he's like, man, Alabama's losing some dudes. I said, yeah, but it's really okay. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. You guys are next because, see, your roster hadn't been very good. So nobody's come after them. I mean, why would they? And now your roster is being upgraded. So next year, you guys went in the portal and got some wide receivers. And so that, the freeze 4 wide receivers, some of them are going to leave. That's just the way it is. And I said, I've learned I can't get too emotionally invested in just about anybody. I'm completely emotionally invested in Keelan Russell and Ryan Hollywood Robinson. I mean, my whole sense of self-worth is tied up in those two. I don't want to put too much pressure on them, but
they're still here.
But most everybody else I've got to look at is, I hate saying this, expendable, because they look at us as expendable. And I say us collectively, like the University of Alabama or all universities. But I'll tell you something else, Jimmy, before you talk some more about the portal. I thought this was interesting. There was a tweet last night, and I think it was the Sun Belt. It could have been one other conference like that. A WAC, a CUSA, whatever it was.
I know what you're talking about. It's the Sun Belt.
Okay, this is the Sun Belt, where every single all-conference player, the first team this year, either is out of eligibility or they're transferring. Not a single stinking first-team all-conference player from the Sun Belt will be returning, and the vast majority of them are because of transfers. Again, this is a world we've created. I don't love it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the group of 5 has truly turned into the Power Four's minor league. It's like you get called up. That's literally what's happened. Those players in the group of 5 that show out, they get called up. And then the Power Four, it's kind of like musical chairs. I mean, everybody's sort of moving around. Everybody's second team, like I've described several times now, at a Power Four program like Alabama, there's 3 groups that comprise your 85-man roster: the starters or co-starters, the true freshmen that are just arriving, and everyone else. And people in the everyone else category, they leave. Most of them left Alabama. Most of them. And the everyone else, most of them left. And that's what's happening virtually everywhere. Like I told you all just earlier in the show, so far, the average number of players that have left SEC teams is 18. That's the average number. Alabama's at 23. That number is a little misleading because it includes 2 players who left midseason and 1 player who left while he was suspended. So that number is a little – I'm talking about Keon there. That number is a bit misleading.
And Jaheim Otis was the first one.
Yeah, Jaheim Otis and who else? Somebody else got in the portal during the season.
Did they?
Yep.
I mean, it must not have been anybody that I'm fretting over at all. Frankly, I'm not fretting over anybody that's in the portal. That includes Justice Haynes, who I carried the flag for, and I'm not mad at him. And he's going to Michigan, and you know what? I think he'll do well at Michigan because I think, first of all, the expectations for him will be tamped down. Secondly, because he didn't produce much at Alabama. Secondly, he feels like a Big Ten running back to me.
What do you think the Alabama fan reaction is going to be if Justice Haynes has a 1,400-yard season at Michigan?
Vomit?
I don't know.
It would be for me.
I mean, I'm going to consider it a little irrelevant. My first question is going to be, yeah, but how good are Jam and Richard Young? I mean, that.
Well, if Jam and Richard Young combine for 2,000, then nobody's going to care.
Well, no one should care. I think they will. but no one should. To me, it's just about, is Alabama putting a player on the field as good or better than Justice Haynes? That's the only thing that will matter to me. But I do anticipate sort of a loud reaction if Justice Haynes goes off at Michigan. And I'm not exactly sure what people are going to blame it on, but I think people will be upset about it.
Even with the expanded number of games Michigan could potentially play, I would be shocked if Justice Haynes got to 1,400 yards. I would be shocked. Frankly, my over-under for his yardage at Michigan next year would probably be in the neighborhood of half that. Now, that doesn't mean he's not good. Doesn't mean I still don't like him. Doesn't mean any of that stuff. I'm just telling you, at this point, I would be surprised. Whereas, if you had told me at the beginning of this year, hey, what's your over-under on Justice Haynes' yardage? I would have said probably closer to 900.
They have a system built for running backs to put up numbers. I mean, last year, Blake Corum put up great numbers. Yeah. This year, they had two guys, Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards, both put up good numbers. So
Neither who played in the bowl game, by the way.
Yeah. And the guy they put in the bowl game, I think, rushed for 100 yards, a freshman. But Michigan, I think Justice Haynes will put up numbers there. I'm not exactly sure what it means. I'm going to ask you this right when let's do the break, and then when we get out of the break, I got a good portal question before we jump into segment 2.
Look at Jimmy paying attention to breaks. So let's talk a little Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to Jimmy and me. We had subscriptions we didn't even realize we're paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spending and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Look, go to Rocket Money right now. You can cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster. That's with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. So let's well, you wanted to ask me something first.
Of all the players Alabama lost to the portal, there's 23 of them. If you could have one back, which one would you choose?
Wow. I'd probably be better off seeing the list in front of me. Okoronkwo.
Agreed. That's exactly what would be my pick. There's other guys I think we will miss to a degree. Devontae Smith's a good player. Elijah Pritchett would have helped with the depth. A guy that I think we're going to miss to a degree also depth-wise is Damon Payne. I think inside was really helpful to us, ironically, also going to Michigan. But I'm a Luke. If I could have one back, it would be Okoronkwo, who I don't even think would play a major role other than special teams in 2025.
But fan favorite.
But, man, he's going to be a great player.
Cool story. You know, you always look for somebody with a hook. I mean, anybody that's coming in from Germany, and his name is Okoronkwo, that plays hard on special teams, which he did. I think he's a fan favorite, and I think he's a cool story, and I think he's a good player.
What his nickname in the locker room was? Stealing this from a source inside the team. There's a nickname in the locker room, Okoronkwo.
What?
Headache.
Headache?
Yeah, headache, because that's what he's delivering all over the field.
Well, then let me ask this, because some people have reached out to us. Any chance you think we get him back from the portal?
I'm going to say a small chance in the sense that I don't think that's one they wanted to walk out the door. So there's probably, and I can't report this because I don't know it to be true, but there's probably some level of communication still going on there because that's one they did not want to leave. So hopefully there's still some talking going on. But, I just look at numbers and math. Whenever I'm asked about these things, I look at the math. Virtually everybody that gets in the portal leaves. So yeah. That's always my bet is, 95% of them. Now, we did talk, we talked Danny Lewis out of the portal. Danny Lewis was in the portal. We talked him out of it, got him right back. So, or eventually did. So the same thing could happen here. It does happen. like Danny Lewis, this is not one they wanted to leave. So hopefully there's still some conversation going on there, but I don't expect him to return.
Yeah, I don't either, but that would be a nice shot in the arm. I mean, just a depth piece. And
all three inside linebackers next year, Luke, all three of them are seniors that will have no eligibility left. All three of the main inside linebackers that will play, Deontay Lawson, Justin Jefferson, and Nakia Greenhill, they're all seniors. And so there would be a major need for Oklahoma. Maybe he goes somewhere 1 year and comes back.
Everybody sort of got on Lane Kiffin being the king of the portal and like maybe challenging the way that he is approaching this, going portal heavy versus high school heavy. We may all be portal kings before it's all said and done because of the way this thing's headed. Like everybody's just, like you said, it's going to be more of a musical chairs thing. But let's take a look at the roster on the whole, because your buddies over at On 3, Andrew Bone, I think it was. Let me make sure. It was Andrew Bone. Had a good article about a lot of guys coming back. And I don't want to run down this entire list he put out, but this is a pretty good list. These are guys that are still here that, obviously could have gotten in the portal. Quarterback Austin Mack, Daniel Hill, Kevin Riley at running back, Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard. Bernard hadn't announced necessarily.
These are all the guys that we signed 1 year ago.
Yeah.
These are all guys that we signed 1 year ago that could have left and have stayed. Yeah.
And these – look, and Bubba Hampton and Rico Scott along with Jeremy and Ryan. And we think, feel good about all those guys being back. I guess Bernard could go pro, but I don't think he will. Jalen Mbakwe obviously moving over. Jay Lindsey, okay. Josh Cuevas, that's one that I like a lot. I think he was underused this year. Casey Poe, Joe Ionata. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Gino Vandermark, Parker Brailsford, William Sanders. Boy, that's a guy we didn't really hear from this year. Jeremiah Beeman, who did play some towards the end of the year. LT Overton. Noah Carter, who I'm still excited about, even though he didn't really contribute this season. Caden Jones, who I know you love at inside linebacker.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
QB Reese at inside linebacker. That's a dude I'm telling folks to look out for him. I think he may make a move this year.
Something really interesting about QB Reese's playing time. I bet almost hardly anyone has noticed this. QB Reese played in the first 3 games and then stopped playing, then played against Mercer late. So he did play in 4 games, preserving the red shirt. But my point is, I'm wondering, and since he played in the first 3, which included Wisconsin, I'm wondering if maybe QB Reese had sort of earned his way into the special teams rotation, and then they had to last minute throw on the brakes and say, do we want to blow this year or not? But I think the fact that he played in the very first 3 games indicates at one point we thought he was worth blowing the red shirt, that he needs to play.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting to me.
That is, and that I've got somewhat of an affinity for him because, first of all, he's an Alabama kid, played at Ramsey. I like any linebacker named QB, all those things.
I like the 3 stars that prove to be really good as a lesson to everybody not to throw a fit whenever we land a 3-star player, because some of them turn out to be really good players and contributors. I guess, they're not all going to be Will Anderson. You can't sign 25 Will Andersons. No one ever has.
Then you've got Xavier Brown, Damani Jackson, Zay Mincy, Keon Sabb, Red Morgan, Deshaun Jones, Cam Howard, and Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. You also bring in, obviously, probably the best group of defensive backs in the country. Now, some of the guys you lost, and again, when I look at this list, where's the real harm other than depth? Caleb Odom, Amari Jefferson, Nyquil Bertrand, Jay-Sean Ross, who's going to Kansas. Here's the other thing I'll get to in a second. Justin Okoronkwo, who we've discussed, Sterling Dixon, and King Mack. Caleb Odom's going to Ole Miss. That was probably as much a money thing as much as anything else. And
he wants to be like a top 2 guy.
And he wants to be a top 2 guy, and he can't be a top 2 guy when you got Bernard and Ryan Williams.
Yeah.
Amari Jefferson to Tennessee, maybe a combination of several things, but Tennessee already had his commitment before from baseball. There's some familiarity there, and he's from Tennessee.
Only player in that whole group that you mentioned, Amari, was the only one not to play a single snap of any game last year.
Correct. Now, how about this? Nyquil Bertrand's going to Syracuse. Ja'Shawn Ross is going to Kansas State. What that tells me is we don't need guys that need to be playing at Kansas State and Syracuse playing for us. Now, if somebody is currently at Kansas State or Syracuse and kicking chicken and we want to get them, there may be guys that can play at Alabama at those places. But if they start at Alabama and end up at those places, my thought is I think we can upgrade.
Yeah, it means something when it's not Georgia and Ohio State and Texas who are beating down their door. That's when you know you lost somebody that you didn't need to lose, right?
Caleb Downs.
Yeah,
that's
a good example, of when the big boys are the ones that are doing the tampering, that's when you've got a good player. Bertrand was just he was a project, and project means it's going to take a while, and it just wasn't working out. He didn't want to take a while, and that was not one Alabama fought to keep, by the way.
So SEC basketball, we kind of assume this, but it's really playing out this way that while the SEC kicked so much butt in the non-conference, it was historic. We're seeing that there are haves and have-nots in this league. Like Vandy goes on the road and destroys LSU, but then they welcome Mississippi State at home and they get destroyed themselves. LSU, meanwhile, goes to Missouri, who was pretty well handled at Auburn, and they get destroyed again. I think what I've learned is, and I guess I'll save my determination for after tonight when Bama plays South Kakalaki, we were thinking South Carolina may be the worst team in this league. I think it may be LSU.
Might be LSU. Yeah,
and
I agree. Based on the earliest of returns, yes.
Yeah, and I watched some of that game. They just don't seem to have it now. It doesn't mean they can't get it. Teams in basketball especially go on runs and they get better. But they look pretty rough. Auburn goes to Texas. It's not a great Texas team, but they've got a couple of dudes, and Auburn went over there and had them down by 21. And then Auburn lost their – I think that's going to be one of the ways you can maybe beat Auburn this year is if you can get them to lose their composure for a minute, because they are pretty high-strung, it seems like. And so if high-strung may be the wrong way to put it. They can be emotional. Now, give Auburn credit, too, last night, because Texas did make a run. It did get close, and Auburn still was able to fend them off. So that any road win, we've said it, any road win is gold. Auburn got a road win last night. They need to be lauded for that, just like Mississippi State needs to be praised for that. Because, Kentucky, as the number 6 team in the country, went on the road to Georgia, and they couldn't get a win.
How about the number 1 team in the country going on the road in the SEC last night and losing by 1,000?
Well, I've been saying this all along, that Auburn should have been the number 1 team in the country. Auburn's played a tougher schedule than Tennessee. To me, they look better than Tennessee. I like Tennessee's team, but here's one thing we learned about Tennessee last night. I don't think this is an anomaly, even though it is only a 1-game problem. Tennessee can't shoot that well. They just don't have a shooter. And you need more than one. And you can say, well, Alabama's not a great three-pointing shooting team. Jimmy and I addressed that. Porter Moser told us that, they miss a 3, then they get the offensive rebound 41% of the time. Then they hit the next 3. That's the problem. And that's what Alabama can do. And Alabama's got so many guys even guys I don't want to have the green light, like Aiden Sherrill can shoot the 3. But regardless, the league is going to be fascinating this year. That Florida win over Tennessee. Tennessee put up 43 points in 40 minutes, Jimmy. And frankly, 8 of those points came very, very late when the game is long since over. They are bad at shooting American basketball.
There have now been 13 SEC games played, and the home team has won 10 of the 13. And there'll be 3 more games tonight? 4, at least.
Yeah, you got 3 games tonight. You got A&M at Oklahoma, Ole Miss at Arkansas, and Bama at South Carolina. And it's not going to shock me in the least if the home team goes 3-0.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going to say. I'm picking Alabama. I think Alabama's going to beat South Carolina because Alabama's got more good players than South Carolina. Alabama's a better team. If you're not going to win this road game, when are you going to win one? I like Alabama to win tonight. So I'm picking Alabama to win. But winning on the road in this league is just 1 inch above impossible. And like Luke said, it could easily be 3-0 for the home teams tonight. That would make the home teams 13-3. And that sounds right to me, but I will say that I think Alabama's going to win. If it's easy, I'll be stunned. I think South Carolina's got enough good athletes, and they're fired up. Hey, last time we went in that building was the Brandon Miller game right after the controversy, and then Brandon just went off. It's one of the games that launched.
Is that an all-time Alabama performance individually?
It launched Brandon into a different stratosphere and resulted in him being the number two pick in the draft.
And by the way, he's playing like it. He's averaging like 25 points in his last 15 games in the NBA or something.
Yeah, he's absolutely justified his lofty selection, and really so much almost started with that South Carolina game in the sense that he was already on everyone's radar, but boy, did that get a lot of attention. So we haven't been in that building since that night. I'm sure the fans are going to remember it. If I remember, the fans were pretty rowdy that night. They'll be even more rowdy this evening, just in the sense that they expect to win, and Alabama's carrying a big name and a big brand
and a big building.
So, and without a Brandon Miller. So let's see what happens. I say Alabama wins. I'll be nervous about every single road game this year, including this one.
And I'm totally with you. And here's the other thing. If you want to erase a 35-point loss at Mississippi State, you know what you do? You beat the number 5 team in the country at your place when you're a 10.5-point underdog, which is what South Carolina is tonight. I also think
a good team. Mississippi State, look what they did last night. They went on the road.
Yeah. Josh Hubbard, Keyshawn Murphy, the kid from Ramsey, another kid from Ramsey. I'm going to tell you something. It's a 10.5-point spread. I saw this from an Auburn guy last night. He said, I don't care what you say. If we beat Texas by 1 tonight, I'll take it. That's the way I look at this. Now, Auburn ended up beating Texas by 5. Frankly, I thought they dominated the game more than that. But, again, I think Texas sort of pushed their buttons a little bit late, and that helped Texas. But, again, I'm going to give I hate doing this. Y'all know I hate doing this. But I'm going to give Auburn a lot of credit and say that they were able to overcome that. And I think they should be the number 1 team in the country. I have no problem.
Number 1 too. They're a heck of a team. I almost hope, because it would mean so much for basketball in this state, I almost hope there are 4 epic Alabama-Auburn games this year, the 2 in the regular season, 1
I don't.
The SEC tournament.
Jimmy, I'm on blood.
In the NCAA tournament.
I'm on blood thinners already. I can't. My heart can't take things like that. I can't. I don't ever want to play them in anything.
Just the very thought of it got your
my voice is getting higher. Did you notice? You brought it up and my voice got higher.
Yeah, I did see it.
I really hate that too. I'm one of those guys that when I get angry, my voice gets higher.
How about this?
It makes you sound like so much more effeminate, and I hate that.
How about this? If we play Auburn, let's just do it in the final. San Antonio, the last 2
sweet Jesus, what is wrong with you?
That would be incredible. It would probably be like the lowest rated NCAA tournament game ever, although 100% of TVs in the state of Alabama would be on it. I don't know about it.
And I'll tell you one SOB that wouldn't be able to watch it. I just have to go sit by a reflecting pool for 2 hours or something.
How many years ago, North Carolina played Duke in the final, right? Didn't that happen?
Final 4.
Oh, that was just in the Final 4?
Yeah, and I think Kentucky and Louisville were going to play in the final, but I think one of them lost. Okay. Can't remember. But no, North Carolina and Duke was a Final 4 game, not a final game. I'll go to my grave saying that's still not. I mean, basketball-wise, it is the better rivalry. Don't get me wrong; it ain't as nasty.
Yeah, they're too polite over there.
Yeah, I mean, they do a bunch of for them, they do a bunch of whoa. We throw stuff, poison trees. We're mean.
Their insults are rational and well thought out and well delivered. They're sort of like the Ricky Gervais of hecklers. We're sort of more knife fight.
We're a lot of your mama jokes.
I think that's right.
But now to exacerbate your point about the road teams. So Bama's a 10.5-point favorite tonight over South Carolina. Again, that's understandable. We're the 5 team. South Carolina just got hammered by Mississippi State, and we are better than them. That doesn't mean we're going to win. Arkansas is a 3.5-point favorite against the 23rd ranked team in Ole Miss, and Oklahoma is a 3-point favorite over the number 10 ranked team A&M. So my point is, everybody understands how tough. And listen to these records. So at 12-2 Bama playing 10-4 South Carolina, 12-2 Ole Miss playing at 11-3 Arkansas, and 12-2 A&M playing at 13-1 Oklahoma. I mean, it's nutty, man. It's usually every schedule is like, okay, tonight you've got Vanderbilt at 11-7, playing at Florida, who's 9-10. We're not going to see any of that. Every time you play somebody, it's going to be a much bigger number on the left side than on the right side. It's wild because the SEC's never been like this. And yeah, it's nutty, man. And like I said, Tennessee got hammered last night. I'm going to caution everybody about this, though. And we obviously see they have a weakness with the shooting. But let me tell you what they do. It is a fist fight with them every time. Yeah. Every dude they got looks like they just assume, you know what, let's just put the balls up and let's just all fight.
Yeah, Tennessee is the Houston of the SEC.
There's no doubt, man. Hey, you know what? It's no coincidence, I don't think, that Alabama and Auburn played Houston this year to try and get ready for some of that. You want to play teams in the non-con to prep you for the con. So, all right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.